But nice to meet you. My name is Mike Utaegbulam, and I lead Black Digital, a digital marketing agency based out of DC. And we work with several nonprofit clients, including Campaign Legal Center and the Restore Your Vote campaign. And so today, we're really going to have a discussion about calls to clicks. And so, want to talk through how to break through the noise, what the current landscape looks like. Let me share my screen, and then we'll try to see if we can get the um, chat enabled. If not, then feel free to submit questions via the Q&A. But we'll get started here. So again, we'll talk through current landscape, must-have tools, and then I'll show you how to set up an ad using Meta, and then of course a Q&A session if you can submit that. And so, starting off with welcome. So let's try the Q&A session here, and then see if you can just let me know. Just do a welcome. Let me know where you're dialing in from, and then I'll shout it out. Cool. I see Nashville. I see Tampa. I see Alabama. Hey, Kathy. And then Judy from Birmingham, Alabama. All right. So the good news is we can chat through the Q&A, and I'll just shout you out. Also, again, if it's anything that you want me to dive deep on in terms of anything I show, feel free to ask, and then I'll answer it during this workshop. Cool. So let's talk about the landscape. So right now, as you know, everyone is hyper. Hey, Chelsea, everyone is hyper social, and so hyper digital, hyper online. And so, as of February, these are some of the analytics that we see online. And so, I think take a few minutes to take a look at it, but I'll walk through it. So on a global use, we're seeing about 5 billion people, 5 billion profiles on social media, which is more than half of the world population. And about, on average, we're seeing at least 2 hours of engagement per day, if not higher. And the audience is getting younger. And what the genesis of this is pretty much saying that we're seeing more involvement on social. We're seeing younger audiences who grew up with social. So again, I'm 38. I remember the world before social, and I'm sure some of you remember it as well. But we're seeing a new audience, and that is of importance to you all as advocates and advocacy leaders, is that you have an even more important job to get the truth out to these younger audiences because, as you know, they are constantly being slammed with information, whether it's true or not. And so this is good data to have. And then we'll do a deep dive further into that in terms of favorite social platforms. And so, as you can see, this is a lot, but as you can see, starting on the left, favorite platforms amongst female users, Instagram is at the top. And that holds strong from ages 16 to 44. So Instagram is at the very top. And then, which is what I thought was interesting, was ages 45 and up, the most favorite social platform was WhatsApp. And so, if you're in a WhatsApp groups, I'm in several, so I actually prefer a WhatsApp group over text. It's easier to manage. But be curious to see if you all use WhatsApp, if that is a platform that you use for communication and then for advocacy as well. And then, of course, because this is global, that's why we're seeing WeChat, which is a social media platform very popular in China and that part of the country. And then Facebook is still holding strong. Now, in terms of men, again, it's the same platforms, Instagram, ages 16 to 34. This tracks. And then followed by WhatsApp. So WhatsApp users 35 to 44, that's my age range. And then, of course, 45 plus WhatsApp. What we're seeing here is TikTok is rising. And so, I'm sure everyone on this call has heard someone wanted to get on TikTok or, hey, we need to get on TikTok. But has turned into a very formidable platform considering the age of TikTok versus Instagram or WhatsApp. Um, Yes, we'll answer that. How can you use it for advocacy better? Absolutely. And I know there's some concerns around privacy, but absolutely talk through that. Okay. Now, in terms of social media ads, and so this is where, we'll talk about like advertising dollars. And so YouTube by far. is, I won't say by far, but an interesting fact about YouTube is that it is the most popular search platform. And so people aren't searching on Google as much. They're going to YouTube first to search for answers, whether it's a recipe, whether it's a how to do, but it is the number one search platform. And so that is why it is number one in terms of ads. YouTube Shorts as well, absolutely. And so again, you can learn a concept between 1 to 3 minutes on YouTube Shorts. It is a very valuable platform. We'll show you an example of what that looks like. And then, of course, Facebook is still holding strong in terms of ad dollars. Now, Facebook and Instagram, they're delineated here, but it is really the same platform. So if you were to combine the two of these into Meta, which is what it is now, it would be the number one platform. And then, of course, TikTok. Again, for TikTok to be 5, 6 years old, it has grown to one of the top ad platforms for people to serve ads to. And of course, if we can go back before, you're seeing that that age range is much younger. And so again, I won't be surprised if in 2, 3 years we see TikTok as the number one platform for advertising, the way that it's growing tremendously. Does everyone know what a YouTube Shorts is? You can answer via Q&A, and I can show you an example of what this is. So it is very much like it adopted this way platform for really it started with Vine with very short 6 second videos, and then it moved on into Instagram, which took that, and then of course YouTube took it. But what we're seeing is people's attention spans are very short, and so YouTube Shorts is limited from 0 to 3 minutes, and it's a way for you to scroll up and down to see
Listen, when this girl ordered DoorDash,
so that is YouTube Shorts. And again, for any advocates there, this is where you would want to post any testimonial video or any results video as a YouTube short, as long as it's less than 3 minutes. If it goes above 3 minutes, then it goes as a regular YouTube video, and you kind of lose some of the potential for it to go viral. And we talked about this as well. Average time per user. Again, TikTok is number one. And so TikTok has been designed for you to stay on the platform, to not leave the platform because it automatically scrolls. And so as you saw with YouTube, when it plays and it stops there, TikTok, as you know, if you open it, it automatically scrolls to the next one. And because it knows you and how your behavior so well, it is designed to keep you on there for hours. And so, I'm sure some of you have been on TikTok, you tried to look up two or three, and then before you knew it, 3 hours are gone. And so it's just designed for that. Followed by YouTube. So as you can see, TikTok, because of the platform and the way it's designed, it has surpassed YouTube. YouTube has been around almost 20 years, I believe. And TikTok has already surpassed it by far surpassed it in terms of how long users are staying on that platform. And then, of course, as we see Facebook and Instagram. The rest of these platforms, WhatsApp, Line, and X, again, these are more communications based and not really, designed to have video. And those top four platforms have the reason why the engagement is so high is because they have honed video as a platform. Now we're seeing X drop significantly, and that's because of the shift to the far right. And so many users have left that platform altogether. And so that's why we're seeing a drop there. And you don't see some of the more emerging platforms such as Blue Sky, um, I forget the others, but Blue Sky is not on here. So this should show you when we talk about anytime you get a question from your teams about, hey, should we join some of these newer platforms? My impression is always no. You should stay with the ones that we know folks are engaging with. And so that kind of gives you some pushback in terms of like getting on a new platform. We want to go where people already are. And so as you can see, some of these new ones aren't even on the list. So we focus primarily on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and yep, Discord. So I think we'll spend some time talking about how you can use platforms such as Discord, WhatsApp, to keep comms going. However, I'll say you just need to have some moderation there, and then you also need to take into consideration your users. So if your users lean towards an older audience, that may not be the best platform to communicate. So it's just some research that must happen, but we'll definitely chat about it. Okay. So I love to show this because the politicians discovered in 2016 that social media was a way to engage new audiences, especially the younger audiences. And so don't have the graph here, but there's a graph that shows Hillary Clinton's ad spend versus Donald Trump's ad spend on social. And if Hillary Clinton spent if she had $100 million, she spent $80 million of her ad spend on traditional advertising. So radio, TV, billboard, out of home, those platforms, while Donald Trump spent 80 million of his 100 million on social. And what we saw is he was able to control the narrative in a way that tipped the vote in his favor. So that he used disinformation, he used memes. So Obama is really noted for really putting a presidency on social media. Trump is really one of the first major candidates to take it and use virality and use the fact that people only read headlines to then sway voters. And so now what we're seeing is social is actually the number one channel to engage with audiences. And this is why you're really getting blasted on social with ads. This is why Meta has made it harder to then advertise on their platform as it relates to politics. They added an additional layers of verification so they make sure that they know who's funding this one, and two, that the information that you're putting out there is as truthful as possible. Again, things have changed since Trump's return back to the presidency, but some of those barriers and parameters are still there. Cool. And then these are some of the ads from the last election. So as you can see, depending on what lane people fell on, they received either positive or negative ads for Biden. What we will say was what we saw is during the election, there was a heavy emphasis on health. And so, as you know, after the last debate, the conversation and sentiment rapidly switched from Trump is unfit for office to Biden is not fit for the role. And the conversations of that weekend before he declined to go for reelection were totally focused on him resigning, putting someone else in there, and you could actually point to uh, that being a major decision to him and the Democrats moving forward with moving to Kamala Harris. And so again, I'm sure you've seen some of these, but would love to see, in the Q&A, are there any ads that you remember from the last election or last election cycle that you've seen on any platform? Cool. When those come in, I will call those out. Okay. The felon ones. Yep. 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 And so the way the algorithms work is if you interact with content. So this is what people talk about all the time is, the my computer's listening to me. And in a way, it is. And so if you've ever been to the store, let's say Nordstrom, and you went in and you said, I'm going to shop in here, I'm going to get a few items. But before I do that, I'm going to log into their free Wi-Fi. And then, you log in, you may search for a few things, and then you leave Nordstrom, you may not have purchased anything. Then you see a Nordstrom ad for the items you were looking for, or you had, searched for on Facebook, or you'll see it, you'll hear it online or anything like that. What these advertisers are doing, and I'm going to show you on the back end what that looks like, is they are taking that data. So when you logged in to that Wi-Fi at Nordstrom, you actually gave them access in to be able to say, we're going to track your activity on the Wi-Fi network. So they're looking at exactly what you opened up and to see if there are any synergies, and they're selling that data to advertisers. And so that's why it seems like they're listening to you, because you actually did give them the ability and the approval to search your data over the network. So that's why you'll see that. So anytime you see free Wi-Fi, I always say free Wi-Fi is ever free. They're tracking your data. They're going to use it to resell it, and then they're going to advertise on that data as well. And then, yep, I was using TikTok at the time. There were a lot of ads about Kamala Harris. Yes. And so again, as we saw earlier, because that the as we know, the voting block is getting younger, you're going to, and we saw on the slide earlier in terms of ad spend, that is only going to increase as we move forward in the future for advertising. So TikTok is definitely a way to connect with those younger audiences, as we saw before, ages 16 to really 34, which is, as we know, the new voting block. All right, so I want to talk through some must-have tools. And so when we started working with Restore Your Vote, and then we wanted to launch ad campaigns for some of the partners, we knew there were some trends. And so I want to show you how to walk through some of those things. And that my hope is to be able to say, all right, now that you've seen how this is done, you can also set up ads on Meta, Facebook, and Instagram, to then elevate your brand, and your work as well. So this is what we call a digital marketing funnel. So on the left, sorry, on the right is a traditional marketing funnel. So what this pretty much says is no matter where you're at in the area, you typically go through these four steps to make a purchase or to sign up for something or to do something. So starting off at the very top, you need to be at least aware of the brand. So let's say, Gucci is an example. If you want to get Gucci shoes, those are like $600, $700 a pop, sometimes higher. You already have an awareness of that. And so, and if you are going into that store, you have indicated interest. So they actually, because they've had a brand for so long and they have a name, they actually come in further down to the decision or action. And so when you go into the store, any store like that, you walk in, somebody walks up to you and say, "Hey, do you need anything? What do you need from the store? Can I help you with anything?" So they help you make a decision. They sit you down and they say, "Hey, can I get you champagne? Can I get you anything?" The experience is good, and so what that does is they're helping you make a decision to then go to action. The action may not be the purchase, but it will leave you with such a positive interaction that eventually you're going to come back to make a purchase. And that's how the traditional marketing funnel works. And it's the same thing with a brand. And so let's say with Restore Your Vote. The goal there is to restore the vote of formerly incarcerated citizens. And so we start off with an ad. So we're creating awareness and saying, "Hey, did you know that 12,000 Alabama citizens currently can get their rights restored, but they may not know it?" It's creating awareness, right? And then what we do as well is then we create other videos, testimonials, first party videos, really gaining interest. So what we want to do is be able to prove the case, show that we are trusted, and then also get people interested so that they can make a decision. The decision there is signing up. So using the lead form, and then leaving their information, which is a big trust thing. So as you know, like, the way we're at now, people are more hesitant to give their information over. And so because you're asking for sensitive things, it's really important to create that awareness so that more people feel comfortable do it with leads. And the way to create awareness is to put out the success metrics, talk about the numbers, talk about the facts, so that people know that you're a trusted source. And then, of course, the action is signing up to get their rights restored, and then that's when you see the lead come in. And so that is traditional. Now, what we're seeing on the digital marketing side is we know that it typically takes about 7 touch points to get people to act. So it's no longer, "Hey, can you sign up for this email list? Hey, can you sign up for rights restored?" They kind of have to see the ad several times to say, "Okay," or they'll see the ad and then they'll go to a website. They may ask someone about it, and then they will convert to a lead. And so that's where the remarketing is. And so in ad world, that is where that Nordstrom example comes in. So you may not buy anything in Nordstrom at that point, but then when you leave, you're going to get hit with the ads on different platforms, whether they're audio, whether they're visual, whether they're video, and you're going to see it enough times where you're like, "Oh, well, maybe I do need those shoes that are, way beyond my budget point." But that's what's required to be able to get people to the conversion, which is a purchase, or in our world, a lead or a sign up or something like that. And then finally, because there are so many people advertising to the same audience, it's so important to retain. We want to retain these people, and whether we are capturing that information and then sending them emails later, inviting them to webinars like this. But it's really important to retain that. So because we know that it's getting even more expensive to get that same audience to act. So retention is big, because it is so more expensive to start someone at the awareness level versus coming back to the retention. And as you see, this is a funnel, so it is going down. And so what this is showing is people dropping off at different phases of this funnel, and then retention or action is at the very lowest. And this is usually about, like, if you start off with 100%, this is usually like 20% of the people will finish the funnel as well. And then, of course, feel free to ask any questions. I'll answer them during this call. Ask them anytime. So, must have tools, right? So every organization, I don't care if you sell cats, I don't care if you sell hair, you need to have a website, because the website is a today's business card. So how many of you have gone to a networking event and you have a good conversation and you're like, hey, would love to learn more about your business. Can I have a business card? And then they come back and they say, oh, I don't have a business card. Right there, you're starting off with the wrong foot, because in your mind, in our minds, any proper business should have a business card, right? So that is what the website is today. And so because we're in an increasingly digital space, even more so since COVID, it's so important to have a web presence. And so in the advocacy space, this means that Alabama partners or Virginia partners, you must have a website, because people are going to look up to see, one, who are the faces behind that brand, and two, if there are any success metrics. Like, I want to be able to see if you have social proof, so testimonials. I want to be able to see who you've worked with. I want to see who your team is. I want to see if there are people of color on your team, especially if you're working with communities of color. I want to know how I can contact you. I want to see social media. So again, this goes back to the consideration and remarketing phase. Having a website fixes it works with a lot of that. So I'll pull up an example of a few websites that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so Restore Your Vote is a perfect example. Again, it's a one pager, and your websites don't have to be very complex. But it's a one pager, but again, it speaks to the user. Yep, speaks to the user. There is a testimonial here from Rodney, so social proof. And then there are ways to contact. So it could be email, phone. But again, this isn't complex. It's a one-page site, and then of course a subscribe. But what this does is it is something for your organization to make. So you can start off with a one-pager as well, and then build over time. But if you don't have a website, that's a must-have, not a nice to have anymore. So someone asked in the chat, what are key pages to have on a website? And so I always say homepage is a must. So that, this was a homepage. Above the fold, information about the site, some testimonials, and then just some key links. Next would be about us. So I want to be able to see who's on the team, some bios, more information about the organization, maybe history. Um, Contact us, a way to contact the organization, whether it's a number, it's a form, ideally it's a form, but sometimes people just want to call someone. And then the fourth page, I'm split in between blogs or resources, right? So you can do a blog where it has statements about what you're doing in the community. So again, an example, and I'll show you one, is Campaign Legal Center has a blog, and it's just thought leadership, and again, it solidifies them as a thought leader in the space. Or you could do resources, so you could say, hey, we know that you need these 5 documents to get your rights restored in this state. The resources, it could be a one pager, and it's just those resources, because you want to be able to provide a resource and a tool to folks, so they say, okay, well, I know they're knowledgeable, they have a good brand, I want to work with them to get their rights restored. Any other questions? Cool. So this is an example, again, of a brochure website we created, and it really just speaks to what we just discussed. But again, above the fold, straight to the point, in the mass incarceration in Nevada beyond, and then a button to the About Us, more about the Freedom Fund, more about us, media, photos. So several of you have great photos that can be placed here. And then, of course, the footer. Then, when we talk about news resources, this is what I meant about like if you have any press releases or big wins in the community, this is where you would put them. And it doesn't have to be complex at all. It could literally just be a photo and a brief recap. Um, and so, with tools such as ChatGPT or Claude.ai, you can make these within reason. So you're not spending a lot of time here. And then also a contact. They didn't want a phone number up here, so they use a form. And again, an about us page or principles. And then they have a donate form with ActBlue. But again, this is what we call a brochure site. So not heavy on features, but it educates the user. And so we made this for them a few years ago. And what we saw is over time, people start to come here organically through Google search. So if you type in rice restoration in Nevada or Las Vegas, the site comes up, and then people are sending inquiries and sending information. And so that's where we want to get all the partners here is to create a platform for people to go come to you, and then eventually people will come on an organic basis. Also, you own the website. So with social media, as we know, as the platforms continue to evolve, the algorithms continue to change. And so what works yesterday may not work today, or something may happen similar to what happened with X, and it just goes far right overnight. It changes ownership. We're seeing it with Meta, where some of the things, such as news feeds or some of the DI programs were shut down. These things are going to continue to happen. Your website, you do have full control over. So you could change the narrative, you could change the content. No matter what happens, you will have full ownership of it. And so I always recommend that partners should have their own website as a must have. Next is social media. So you need to have a presence on social. And so I recommend that if you have a small team, you shouldn't have more than two platforms, because you need to do those platforms really well. And as you know, the more platforms you have, more split your audience becomes and the engagement drops. And so if you pick a platform, again, based on those numbers before, what we saw here in terms of where people are, Instagram should be there. And Instagram is a very visual platform, so it will require some type of photos or video content to feed the beast. You can also do um, Facebook, those two as well. So, and I think for most of the audiences, most of the partners, those two platforms are going to be your best bet in terms of where to engage first. Now, if you do have a team and you can say, hey, I want to do a little bit more on social, then you can look at a third platform. But I'll say do those two platforms really well. And so we just launched the Restore Your Vote channel, so it's a very new channel. But as you can see, it's very visual. So we made several templates for their team, and then also gave access to the internal team to be able to post as well. But the graphics don't have to be complex at all. These can be Canva templates so that anyone on your team can turn it around, and then post. But in terms of how much you should post per week, I'd say if you have the time, at least twice a week, something that's relevant. But if you do have more, then you want to go three or more per week. So again, this is the example of the Instagram channel and something I'd recommend for everyone. Now, if you do want to get on other platforms, I think I would consider LinkedIn company page, and I'll show you an example of that as well. This is good because you can target real people. So this is an example of client we manage, and so they're based on who their target audience is, which are Black financial professionals. They were able to see tremendous growth over a year, so they've grown by at least uh, 4 or 5,000 over the course of a year because their audience is actively on LinkedIn. And so backing up a bit, you should definitely take a look at your audience, your target audience, and we can walk through that to see what platforms they're at, what they consume. And then you can say, all right, based on that, in the age range, we're going to open up on this platform. So if your audience is they have presence on LinkedIn, they're older, you can start here. And then what I'd recommend in terms of engagement is always tag them because on LinkedIn so like someone said in the chat, it's very easy to grow organically. If you post something and it's featured around a story or somebody on the media and you tag them, if they even comment on it or they like it, what happens is that post then gets expanded to their networks. If they reshare it, that happens, but any type of engagement and that just grows organically. And so if it's highly visual, it's relevant content, people will then share it as well. How do you figure out the audience? Are there multiple audiences? So yes, great point. So I am very, very big on using. Oh, wait, can you hear me? Can y'all hear me? I think I'm on a mute. I hope you can hear me. So the question was, okay, good. The question was, how can you figure out the audience? And so I'm going to show you something on ChatGPT that I think it will be helpful for anyone here. Let me share my screen. And then I do want to leave some time to go through an actual ad setup. So let's say um, ChatGPT is one example, but you could also do Claude. No, I'm sorry, ChatGPT or Perplexity or Gemini. They're different platforms, but what I would say is I am starting a new social platform in Alabama for for a target audience is 35. And you actually have this data. If we've been doing ads for you, you have this data to see where your target audience is. What engage them on and social, please list your data sources. And so I recommend using this as a thought partner, and it shouldn't be, doing everything for you. But as you can see, very similar to what we just said earlier, YouTube, Facebook. Pinterest, I would question that because there's not relevance there. LinkedIn, right? And so what tells you the why tells you, and then it can, most of this is going to be pulled from Sprout Social, which is a platform that we use. It's a distro platform, but all I have to say is you can use this as a thought partner to say this is who you want to target and this is how you should communicate with them, and then it'll pull data for you, so it becomes a thought partner, so that you know where to launch and then sometimes what content to use and how to launch. Okay. So so that is social. Email distribution. And so this is going to be MailChimp, Constant Contact. This is a platform to be able to send newsletters or reminders to organizations or your subscribers about updates. And so as I said, as you own website, you own your email list. And so as these algorithms change, you still own the people's emails that are on your email list. And so it's really important there to be able to, do things like on your website, have an email subscribe, or you could use contact and then use those and put those into your platform in terms of constant contact or MailChimp, and then you're sending them consistent communications. So restore your vote, and most of you should have received that last email from Restore Your Vote. If you're on the email list, and not, we'll make sure we get you on there. But let me pull this up so you can see. But this is an example of their July newsletter. So this one was pretty robust. We did say that we weren't going to do something this long, but again, to the point, partner spotlights. This is very long, but links to press. So it's your way of really informing the audience about the facts. And you could send this it all. So I got a question about how often should you be sending emails? Um, Depends. So when in general, I think you should be doing a touch point um, regularly, right? But within bandwidth. So I know that some of you have very small teams. Um, if you have low bandwidth, at least once per month, at least once. With some organizations, they also do one a week. So usually once a month or one a week, but only send an email if you have something to say. If you don't have anything to say, then once a month is fine. If you have an event, I'm of the mindset of it's no holds barred, right? Because you want to get people to attend that event. And so I'm sure you all get emails all the time about a certain deal or promotion, and you're getting sometimes twice emails twice a day, right? Especially as it comes to Black Friday, Giving Tuesday, you're getting emails throughout the day and before. So it depends. You are going to annoy people because marketing is disruptive. Marketing is supposed to be annoying. It's supposed to get you to act. And so I think I want you all to retool that in your minds that you're supposed to annoy people because that's the only way that most will be able to see your stuff. We work with a client to send out a donor email, and we sent it out at like 5 a.m. And someone responded and said, "Normally I don't respond to stuff like this because it came at a weird time, but I only responded because I happen to be online at this time, and so I'll donate." And so even when it comes down to timing, you'll know your audience. You should test out, send it before 7 a.m. And then you could do research either on ChatGPT or ask your users, hey, when do you actually log in? So I actually personally, I consume a lot of media between the hours of 5:30 a.m. and 7 a.m., whether I'm working out or checking email. That's really usually when I'm checking things. I don't check any type of like marketing or external marketing during work hours because I'm doing client work and working with a team. And then, of course, if I'm transitioning from work back home, then you have that time frame between like 4 and 6 where I'm on the phone again, right? And so that comes through the research as well. You can see the trends in your age groups and say, okay, we know they're going to be online at this time, so I'm going to send this email newsletter at 7 a.m. Or I'm going to send this email newsletter on a Saturday. Or I'm going to send it on 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on a weekday. And so you should test different times to see what works best. And then your analytics, and I'll show you an example of campaign legal centers. So it'll show you data such as open rate and when people are, let's see, I'll pull it up here. Open rate, click rate, if people are unsubscribing, when are they opening the emails? So if you were to change the metrics here, you would see that this is when people open up the emails and this is when they interacted with it. As you can see, 5 p.m. we saw an uptick here, but this is just over the past couple of days. And so let me see if there's another email we can see. Right. So there's an example. So again, this is over the 24-hour list, but I think if you have it, so this is more of a reason to have a platform such as Constant Contact and Mailchimp so you can see this data. And Mailchimp is free up to a certain limit. I think it's 500 contacts. Constant Contact, I believe you have to pay. But again, these things are nominal when you consider the value add. So again, if we go back to the deck website, social media, and email are must-haves. Got a question about there are some people who see nonprofits audience as funders and media. How do we include people who need their rights restored in audience? So there are a few ways to do this. One is, again, go back to the website. I'll show the client's website and how they segment their list. And so, okay. So this is their contact form is a little bit more advanced. And so people can leave their name, email address, name, or organization name, LinkedIn profile. So I'm not sure if you can see this drop down, but these drop downs, if you were to say, hey, I am a member, I want to know more about members, if you were to fill this out, then it gets dropped into MailChimp and is segmented as a member. So I'll show you on the MailChimp side what tags look like. So right now, CLC has several. So they have the staff is a tag, and then they have tags by state. And so in theory, as this grows, they can say, hey, we want to send out a communication to our Tennessee partners. And so you could do the same thing with media and funders. You can create a separate tag for them so that you're only sending communications to them. And so I'll show you a quick example of how that would look like in MailChimp. So you could say, in the to field, who are we sending this to? We're not going to send it to all email subscribers. We're going to send this to CLC staff only, and then save, and then it'll go to 100 recipients. And so you could do the same thing with, as long as the data is good and you segment it properly, you could do targeted emails like that, and then do a tag for funders and media or partners or the formerly incarcerated. You can do as many tags as you want. And this is also similar in constant contact. So that is just keeping a good data there. And you can communicate to those audiences. You can also do like zip code based or city based, but that is helpful as well. All right. Google Analytics. So I'll go through this briefly. This is a way to track your traffic. So again, I keep going back to website. You want to be able to get a sense of who's coming to your site and what are they doing on the site. And so I'll pull up an example of a dashboard so we can walk through. So as this loads up, Google Analytics went through a major update 2 years ago to Google Analytics 4, and it has become complex. But there's a way to aggregate this data to where you can get the information that you need. But I do want to stay here on these two pages. So as you can see, this is over the course of, I think, 30 days. No, last 7 days, excuse me. And so right now we can see what are the top pages that people are listening, watching. So we're doing an ad campaign for them for their festival. This is the March On Festival, and they are focused around amplifying civil rights stories through film and movie. And so we're creating an ad and sending it to their festival page. So as you can see on the ad side, we're actually running ads for the festival, but these are also the events that we're running ads for. So this shows us that the work that we're doing there is working, and those are the top pages on the site. So these are the top 4 to 5. Interesting enough, you can also see where countries are coming from. So because most of our ads are US based, they're coming from the United States. And I think you can even do a deep dive into city. So you can say, all right, what cities in the US? Um, and we can see that these and this tracks if you know historical data with the organization, we know most of their audience is on the East Coast, upper East Coast, the Northeast corridor. So DMV area, New York, Baltimore, Boston, and so we're doing a nationwide campaign, but as you can see, the content is resonating with their current audience as well. And then another metric that you can see that you should be checking on Google Analytics, and apologies, this is going a bit slow, is you want to see where people are coming from. And to answer the question in the chat, we're running ads right now on Meta, so that's Facebook and Instagram, due to the budget. So you can see as this pulls up. acquisition. So what this is pretty much saying, or is gives you a report of where the traffic's coming from, acquisition. So as you can see, direct means that people are literally searching for it on Google. They're putting in March on Festival, or they're finding it from email or a different link. They're clicking on it to get to the site. And as I said, because we're running ads, paid social is number number two, right? So that'll continue to increase. Um, excuse me, direct is people are clicking a link and then going to the website. So that's direct. Then organic search is people are searching it online and then getting to the site. Referral is, let's say, Restore Your Vote said, hey, we want to support this organization in DC that is doing a movie on rights restoration. Click here to learn more. If somebody clicks on that link and goes to the festival site, that counts as a referral. So in the SEO world, that means backlinks. That's a backlink. And those are also very valuable. And so if you have funding partners, or if you have people with large reaches or large traffic going to the website, it may be worth asking them, hey, can you include a quick bio about us and add it to, one of your key pages? And that just helps with referral traffic. And then organic social. So posting something on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and then people click on it to get on the site. So those are the acquisition channels. And again, I know it's a lot, but this type of data you want to have, because I am certain that anyone that has gone for a grant these days, there's probably going to be a digital component in terms of what is your reach, what areas are you engaging folks in, do you have a website, what is your social media platform? So let me know in the QA session if you've seen those kind of questions in grant applications, because they are increasing because people know. Okay, so we got a note that says, I've tried to get approved to do ads with Meta at least 2 to 3 times and went through the whole process. Then they sent me a note that I had to get notarized. Yes, so I think we can, with the last few minutes, let's walk through that here, because I know that happens quite a bit. So what what um what Kathy's talking about is pretty much you have to get authorized to run ads on social media about politics or social issues, anything related to housing or finance. You have to get authorized. And so I'll walk you through what that looks like. It is not an easy process by any means, but we've had to do this for any Restore Your Vote partner because all of you have ads related to social causes or politics directly. So let's go to, I think we might have done this for Restore Your Vote. Let's see, new one. Okay. All right. So let's go with one of our clients who I know is not authorized to do this work. So if you wanted to get authorized, if you have a page, which we can do a whole workshop about, like, creating ads. But what I didn't mention before is make sure if you have a Facebook page, you should all check this today. If you have a Facebook page, that you have full access to that page, right? So, if you go to settings and then I think it's page setup, page access, right? You should have full admin rights, right? On that end. Then check this where it says business portfolio access. Then on the flip side, you should have access to your business manager. So we ran into this a lot of times to where someone on the team or a previous employee or previous advocate created a business manager account. And then when they left, there wasn't a proper transition of data. And so they lost access to the business manager account. That is really difficult to manage, especially since everything happened in 2016 with the election. They've become really strict on this. If you don't have access to the business portfolio, you lose a lot of interaction and things that you could do with that platform. So I encourage you to look at this when you get a chance. Go to your Facebook page, go to page setup, page access, see if you have full access. And then if there's a business portfolio here, make sure you have full access to that. That way you have full control to do advertising. But going back to Kathy's question, so if you want to be approved to do social ads on electoral or political ads, you'll go to issue or electoral political ads, click here. Then if all of these are checked green, then you're good to go, right? But since this account has not been approved or authorized, you have to do all the things. And so um, as you can see, I had to confirm my own identity. So Kathy, we may need to connect after that. I think you do need to submit an ID, photo ID, and then I think there may be some issues, but I think you and I can connect on that. But starting at the top, it says confirm your identity. You have to confirm your identity with Facebook. They want to know who's attached to this, who's running this. And then create a disclaimer, right? And so this is pretty much saying they need to know what organization is going to be advertising on this platform. So you should have an EIN number. This may be a little bit more complex if you have a funder, a fiscal funder. But if you want to put in your EIN, and then it tells you that, transparency, whatever you put in here will be on their ad library for up to 7 years. But they won't have like your EIN, and you can hide things like your address and all that. So then you'll put your legal name, business name in here, the tax ID, the organization address, and then the phone number. Let me see if I can do this while we're on the call. And let's see if we can get right with this. And then you're going to put in your name and your website URL. A note here is that your website URL, whatever email address you use, must match the website URL. So if you have like alabamapartners.com, the email must be your name at alabamapartners.com, or Facebook's going to reject it. Then what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to match it, your data with something that exists already in their system. So right now it's using my information to search online. And so this is good. So Digital Sauce is actually the LLC. It's the legal name of our company. And so for me, it should be easy. I could just click this and then I'd be good to go. So if you see your business, you click on it and then you go down and you click on next, then it's going to, confirm your EIN, and then I think you may need to add your phone number there. But for most people, their organization is listed. So you'll put in my business isn't listed. And then this is when you'll need one of your legal docs. And so I typically use the IRS number here. So the IRS letter to put here, but you can also add several documents as you can see here. Once you upload that, then what happens is they will request your email for a confirmation code and then your phone number for a confirmation code. And then once that's done, it goes through a reviewer process. Sometimes they reject it, and so you need to go back and forth to see why they rejected it. So it may be like your whatever your business name that you put here may not match your EIN documents. So you need to list why that's different. So you may need to upload a DBA document. But once that's done, then you'll be approved to then run ads on social as it relates to social issues or politics. And so I'm going to pause it there and then see if there are any questions that I can answer within the next few minutes because we're a little bit over time. You get approval. The question is, do you get approval as an individual or an organization? So you get two. So you must be ID verified by Meta, and then your organization must be approved to advertise as well. So it's two. Any other questions? Cool. Um, Yeah, I love this stuff. So I think, I'll get with the Restore Your Vote team. They're pretty awesome. And then I think if you leave feedback in terms of like what you want to do a deep dive on or what you want to hear more of, I'm happy to do another workshop. I love this kind of stuff. So just let me know. But thank you for your time today. That was a very quick hour, very information packed hour. And if you have any questions at all, We can send if it's cool with the Restore Your Vote team, we can send an email with my information, and then we could do another one of these. And Kathy, please, I'll send you an email. Let's figure that out because I feel like something's up. But have a good Wednesday, and we'll be in touch on social media.